Ardmore Leader election coverage continues this week with 4 more interviews preparing local voters for the April 7th elections. This week, candidates running for the at-large seat on the Ardmore City Commission. Ardmore Decides 2026 continues this week in Ardmore. I'm News Director Michael Dean Smith. Thank you for downloading episode 55 of This Week in Ardmore. This is a weekly podcast from Ardmore Leader dedicated to independent coverage of local news. For the next 2 weeks, I'm changing up the weekly podcast just a little bit to give you access to interviews with candidates and officials to explain who and what will be appearing on ballots across Ardmore next month. Last month, I invited local candidates for 3 particular positions to talk about their campaigns. And here, just in the past 2 weeks, I've already published interviews with both candidates for the Southern Tech School Board, as well as an interview with officials from City Hall to discuss the proposed 1-cent sales tax to be decided by voters. Next week, I'll post interviews with both candidates for the Ardmore School Board, and later this month, I'll talk with Plainview School officials about that district's bond proposals totaling $42 million. But for this week, we have 4 interviews to present to you voters with candidates running for the at-large seat on the Ardmore City Commission. Doug Fow is the incumbent seeking his 5th 3-year term on the City Commission. Challenging him for that position this year, 3 challengers: Brian Edge, Buddy Simon, and Scott Stahl. Now, just to let you know that candidates and officials did not receive any of these questions in advance, and the interviews you hear this week will be played in the order that the interviews were recorded. I'll be playing each of the interviews right here on This Week in Ardmore, and I'll also be posting each individual interview as part of our 10-part series over on our other public affairs podcast, The Junction. Up on the website this weekend, as well as in our printed newsletter, are some brief summaries of my interviews of these 4 candidates. Also in this week's newsletter, we've got some information from the Ardmore Public Library about their spring scavenger hunt for young Ardmorites. You can also read this week's editorial and some other stories, along with previous stories, over on our website, ardmoreleader.com. Edward Jones financial advisor Cody Steele, he'll be back later this month to resume his market snapshot commentary. With that said, let's resume our 10-part interview series this week with 4 interviews to let you know who's running for the Ardmore City Commission. 4 people are vying for the at-large seat on the Ardmore City Commission, and joining us now to talk about their campaign for that seat is Brian Edge. So, Brian, thank you for joining us in the Junction this week.
Thank you, Michael, for having me.
So, just to kind of get started off, talk a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, and why you want to serve on the Ardmore City Commission.
Sure. My name's Brian. Last name is Edge. I've been in and around the Ardmore area since I was very young. We moved here in the 90s. We're actually Texas transplant, so don't hold that against me. But we, my dad pursued a career in the Air Force, and once he got out, sent his resume out to a bunch of people, and this little town in Ardmore picked it up and said, "Hey, do you want to be our OR director?" And so we moved from the San Antonio area into this little town called Springer, and we total culture shock. But we've been here ever since. I grew up in Lone Grove, and I've had a residence in Ardmore since I believe the early 2000s when we moved. And a little bit about myself. I am a business solution analyst at Mercy Hospital, and I serve all 4 states for Mercy: Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, but I'm based out of Ardmore. And what a business solution analyst does, I'm not really sure. No, we work on the software side of the OR. So we do a lot with UI for the end users, but we also do a lot with tracking materials. We do a lot of reporting. We do a lot of financial data gathering. So that's kind of in my wheelhouse of trying to dig that information out of very large transactions. Okay. And how that kind of relates to the commissioner seat, I am very frugal when it comes to finance. And I see a problem in Ardmore. They like to spend what they don't have, and when they don't have it, they try to pull it from from needs to necessities. And what I mean by that is when you have a leaky roof, you don't go out and buy a new TV because your TV went out. You fix the leaky roof first. And Ardmore seems to try to fix the fancy TV before the roof is fixed. And so seeing that need, I've been following the local politics for several years now, and I just don't see any improvements. And I think it's kind of self-evident, the fact that there's 4 people vying for this position this year. I'm not the only one seeing it either. Just the average citizen will have their complaints, but they don't know where to forward those complaints. We don't have we speak of transparency, but we're not super transparent. Ask any person in Ardmore where to submit a report for a pothole. Ask them, how do I get the budget? It's publicly available, sure, but we're just not very transparent about it. And so it's time to put thoughts into actions. And today I'm glad to be able to put actions into words to kind of explain where I'm coming from.
Okay. Well, staying on that same thread, I kind of want to find out a little bit more about what you know about City Hall, about how it operates, and what you would consider to be important as serving as a city commissioner. So what experiences of yours have prepared you for what would be a 3-year term as the at-large commissioner
Sure.
City Hall?
Good question. You have to go back to how the city was founded. Of course, we've been around since the 1800s. I think we were federally recognized in 1898, I think is when we were federally recognized. But our charter goes back all the way to the 1950s. I believe 1958 is when we fully adopted and established the current charter that we're in, which is really just a template that Oklahoma provided to all municipalities. And the template was a commission manager format, and it's to allow citizens to elect a city manager to take care of the business operations, and the commission is responsible for putting forth laws. They're responsible for the budget, and they're responsible for keeping the manager responsible or accountable. And if he is not doing a good job, replace him. It's ran like a business. Too often people don't conflate appropriately business and politics. They treat city matters, they treat state matters, or federal matters for that matter, as a total different entity. But what it really is a giant business. And the first thing a business has to look at is the numbers, which is our budget. And our budget comes from taxes. So as a commissioner, one of the things that I would be most interested in is getting our budget balanced, because right now it appears balanced, but we're having millions and millions of dollars pushed into fun projects. I love fun, but we got to fix the leaky roof before we can have that fun. And as a commissioner at large, I would represent all 4 wards, not just one. So the vested interest in the city, I think, as an at-large commissioner, I would be more interested in hearing what the people are most interested in. Where do they want their money spent? So if you want to stop me, feel free. But one of the things that I want to tie in on is, again, transparency. I've said that multiple times. The city claims to be transparent, but there's just not. Claiming to be something and being something are 2 different things. When's the last time Ardmore had a public forum to actually hear citizens' voices? I can't think of a time. Sure, the meetings are open. You can go into it, but you can't say anything at a commission meeting because it's not a public forum. So as a commissioner, I would like to push for at least once a year, if not quarterly, a way for citizens to actually tell their commission what they want their taxes spent on. So as far as what do I know about the commission, it's all available in our city ordinance. It's all available online. You just have to do the digging, unfortunately.
Well, and you touched on this for my next question. I want to learn about how you would plan on serving as the at-large commissioner. So how would Commissioner Edge stay engaged with residents? You had mentioned, town halls or things like that. But whether we're facing a crisis, a controversy, or fair weather, how do you stay in touch with constituents and keep them informed on what's going on, whether good or bad?
Sure, and that's a good question because I don't have a good answer, and it's easy for, and I'm not sure what any of the other candidates are saying. It's easy to make promises when you don't understand the process, and one of the processes is the commissioner is, again, responsible for appointing management. They're responsible for appointing judicial appointments, the city attorney, but they're not responsible for day-to-day operations. So when a commissioner promises, hey, I'm going to help fix these potholes, or a commissioner says, hey, I'm going to help reduce staff, or management decisions, they're making a false promise. It's not what the commission was designed for. So how would I stay engaged? Is, well, I would want just an open door policy. If people want to reach out to me directly, I'm perfectly happy to talk to anyone and everyone as essentially a representative of how they want their money spent. That's what's most important to me. But the reason it's hard to answer is I would be one of five. And so my opinion is only going to be as good as the other four. And so a 20% vote, I may want to have a public forum, the other four may not. So again, making promises that you can't fulfill is not a good way to start. But more importantly, making promises that are not lawful is totally different too. Because again, the commission position, I don't think people understand what it really is.
I think everybody has an opinion on this, and I want to get yours. Ardmore, like any town, is going to have a couple of challenges it's going to be facing. So whether we're talking about road conditions, whether we're talking about the loss of hundreds of manufacturing jobs in recent years, what do you see as one of the biggest challenges facing Ardmore, and how would your specific job on the commission, how would you like to face that challenge?
Sure. So one of the things that Ardmore is most, I don't want to say they have the most heartburn over, because it's old news now, but one of the things that's still affecting us is, of course, the Michelin shutdown. It's been a staple in the community, a large employer. How do we get another business like that to come in? So as a commissioner, we can put forth ordinances to entice or encourage businesses to participate. I don't think the answer to fixing some of our major infrastructure problems is like the 1% tax that's coming up. I don't think it's digging into people's pockets. I think it's how do we increase revenue by drawing people in. And so Ardmore does a pretty good job with some of their beautification, such as the downtown initiative. But me as a commissioner, it's really hard to say what I will be able to do. But you asked my opinion, and my opinion is we have to entice businesses to come in by reaching out and asking what they need.
Okay.
And I don't think that happens very often. We had that hydrogen plant that that kind of fell through. When you look at the commission meeting, there was a lot of back and forth, and this was not entirely Ardmore's fault, but we never really asked them what they needed. We asked them what they wanted. We asked them, what's it going to take? But we didn't ask them what they need to stay. And that's kind of again, it's not Ardmore's fault it's probably a bad example. But building business is number one. But number two, it's doing it responsibly, not digging into the pockets of Ardmore. And I'm kind of hesitant to say this because I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but one of the things that the city manager has openly stated about the 1% tax that they're proposing is, really we're going to get 1/3 of it paid for by people who visit Ardmore every single day. And it sounds good on paper, but when you increase sales tax 1%, you're still affecting the other 2% that is paying the same taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So 1/3 of that revenue does come from outside of Ardmore. But
Talking about people that come in to
Right.
shop or come in to even work and
come into
Right.
work, whether they live in Ardmore or not. But at the same time, that increase affects people coming in. Sure, we increase our revenue, sure, but we're also taking more money out of Ardmore's pockets. So that's something that I'm not for, because it's clear when you ask the average person if they're for it, they are not. And of course, we'll know for sure come election time whether they're actually for it or not. And I say that, get out and vote, because the last several elections have been decided by less than 1% of the population.
that election day is coming up on April 7th. Make sure you're registered to vote by March 13th if you do plan on casting a vote for that. Finally, Mr. Edge, at the end of this 3-year term that you're running for, would be coming up in 2029. If you do win this election, you do serve as the at-large commissioner. What does Ardmore look like in 2029 as this term would be coming to an end?
Hopefully, Ardmore will look a lot more responsible with their budget. At the end of 2029, what I hope to see is citywide change. I want to see this election start a chain of events of public involvement. I want to see the greatest voter turnout we've ever had, and I want to see more candidates for the other 4 wards. I don't want the at-large position to be the only seat that's in contention, because I do believe that we have become complacent. We're just okay with business as usual. And one of the things that I have publicly stated several times is our current commission is the commission of yes. They're always in agreement 100% of the time. When there's 5 people there, there's 5 yeses. When there's 4 people there, there's 4 yeses. There's never a dissenting vote. That tells me that we are not a smooth machine. We are a machine that has not been calibrated. We're no longer moving forward. We're all on the same page. And when you have 5 people that are always on the same page, you're not making decisions. You're signing a blank check for the decision makers, which is coming from whether it's coming from city staff or whoever's bringing the policy. And a lot of that we don't see on the public side, because a lot of those decisions are made before the public commission meetings. But to answer your question simply, it is an Ardmore where the public is involved, where more people step up, they put their action where their words are, and hopefully this is a trend that will move forward.
So we've gotten a little bit of some of your policy positions, some of your history. For this final question, I want to just learn a bit more about you personally. So thinking to books, arts, video games, movies, what's one of your favorite pieces of artwork like that, and why?
Pieces of artwork?
Like I said, even going into like video games or movies or books.
Well, I don't have a ton of free time. I have 5 children, but the 2 older children, we spend a lot of time with Minecraft. And you and I have had a conversation off the air on that, but the entertainment factor for us is creativity. Minecraft really is kind of an art. Not only can you build art in the world, it's critical thinking, and it's something that I see as entertainment for my children, but I also see it as a way to grow their own creativity and their problem-solving skills. And so, yeah, that's a tough question. You caught me off guard there.
All right. Well, I do thank you for that input. Like I said, I like learning about the history and the policy, but I got to learn about the candidate as well.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brian Edge. He's one of 4 candidates running for the Ardmore City Commission at-large seat. Election day is coming up on April 7th. Brian, thanks again for joining us in the Junction this week.
Thank you so much, Michael.
We've got 4 people vying for the at-large seat on the Ardmore City Commission. And joining us now to talk about his campaign for that seat is Buddy Simon. So, Buddy, thank you for joining us in the Junction this week.
Good morning, Michael. Thank you very much for the invitation to come over and speak to the people. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Let's get this started just kind of by letting you kind of introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, and specifically tell us why you want to serve on the Ardmore City Commission.
Well, that's a long, that may take the whole 15, 20 minutes. I've got a long history of being a self-employed businessman, and I can make it short. After I left high school at Ardmore High School, I left in 1976. I came back to Ardmore in 86. I created a restaurant after having bad luck in the oil and gas business in Oklahoma City as a self-employed producer up there. I came back, started Budrow's Rib Joint, and after a few other business endeavors, I'm now in the construction business with my son. My son and I are partners. We buy the worst house in the best neighborhood. And we try to renovate those homes to make them into family homes. We don't do any kind of leasing. We sell these houses. Okay. And we see houses in town that are timed out, that are eyesores to a neighborhood, or that are condemned by the city, and they sit. So we try to buy those. We try to bring them back into a family home situation for inventory to homes in the city. Okay. So I've been a long time self-employed businessman, but I certainly am not a politician, and I'm not a public speaker. But like I said earlier, I have a big mouth and I know how to use it. I've got big ears and I know how to use those as well. So I've watched a lot of what's going on in the city. That was my main motivation. 3 years ago, I started a coalition of my son and Philip Capshaw and a couple of other people to try to relocate some of the homeless people here in town, because we had an interest in buying the Ardmore building and converting that into a boutique hotel. Mm-hmm. So we needed to clean up downtown. There were homeless people everywhere. So we did that. We sent 133 less fortunate individuals back to locations of their choice, and we paid for all of that. So we were able to relocate 133 people. Only 3 of those people came back to our community. Mm-hmm. So we were able to eliminate a little bit of the homeless problem here. It's a national problem, mm-hmm. but we have it locally here as well. So that's one of my many platforms that I'm trying to run on here for this city commission position. Okay. Well, we'll have a couple opportunities to talk about maybe some of those other platforms. Moving on, I want to find out a little bit about what you know about Ardmore City Hall, about how it operates, and I want to learn about what you consider to be important when it comes to being a city commissioner. So what experiences of yours have prepared you for a 3-year term as the city's at-large commissioner? You know, that question in itself ponders me late at night. Only my personal experience. I've done rezoning of properties. I've done rezoning. I get building permits. I deal with neighborhoods due to the permitting process that we have to go through to do the construction projects that we do. We have had some rezoning projects all the way back to 1986 when I had to rezone Budrow's Rib Joint to put in the restaurant that we did, up to today that we have some zoning questions that depend on our city commissioners to make the decision whether or not it's right or wrong for the city. Mm-hmm. I guess it's just simply my personal experience. I'm not a trained politician. I don't have a lot of interaction other than business with the city. I deal with the planning and code enforcement a lot because mm-hmm. of our line of business. But then again, I have been in front of the commission, both the planning commission and the city commission, to allow them to make decisions based on our wants and needs. Okay. So I try to bring my common sense to the table as to what's best for me and for the city. I want to learn a little bit how you would plan on serving as the at-large commissioner for Ardmore. How would Commissioner Simon stay engaged with residents, whether the city's facing a crisis, whether there's some sort of controversy going on, or just things are fair weather? How do you plan on staying in touch with constituents? Obviously, it's a different place and time that we live in. Social media is huge. Mm-hmm. I am not a computer person, and luckily I have a couple of kids that are very versed in that. I can visit with them. Social media, I think, is the way that most people communicate today. It's a sad fact of the matter. I own the Ardmore printing press, and we don't print newspapers, and they don't print newspapers in this facility anymore. I particularly like to get my fingers black and read a newspaper, but I think that we just have to have boots on the ground. I have to speak to people, and I do it at the lumber yards I visit on a daily basis when I'm out, acquiring materials for jobs. When I go to restaurants, when I go to shop here in town, it's a matter of at the schools when I'm dropping off grandkids and things. I'm speaking to people and finding out what it is they're mostly concerned about. And it turns out that their concerns are very much my concerns: roads, homelessness. The thing that really set me off is our business relationship. Our city has to be more business friendly, and we'll go into that here in a moment if you'd like. But because it's somewhat convoluted in that losing Michelin was a big thing to the city of Ardmore, and I don't know that we exercised every option that this city could have exercised to keep that manufacturer here. If you don't have manufacturers in your community, you're just consumers. This doesn't pay. We need to manufacture. We're so lucky to have the distribution centers. Valero was Michelin, a lot of the other big manufacturers, because that brings trade to our city, brings residents to our city. So to answer your question, I think just listening to my constituents, my people, and constituents is a political term, but listening to the people that I talk to. And when they have a concern, it just so happens that it aligns with my concerns. I don't know what it is as a commissioner that I can do about it, but I will hold the power of a vote. And that in itself is what I plan to use. Okay. That and the commitment to clarity, Michael. I'm going to be clear to the people. There has been some expenditures of big amounts of money in the city of Ardmore here of late, and I don't know why. So every other citizen doesn't know why. It got passed at the commissioner's level at the request of the city manager, and boom, all of a sudden our general fund is now out millions and millions of dollars. And I would like to be able to take that information back to the people and say, this is how the decision was made, this is why the decision was made, and this is what we're going to do now that the decision has been made.
Okay. Let's get into some of the details on this then. I think everybody has an opinion on this. So to get yours, you had mentioned one of the challenges about manufacturing jobs being lost in town. That's not the only one, though. We've heard plenty of people talking about road conditions. The list could be potentially endless. In your opinion, what do you see as the biggest challenge here in Ardmore? And then what would your job be as a commissioner when it comes to facing that challenge?
Well, I spoke to you a little bit about Michelin, and I think, to run the city of Ardmore is no different than running Budrow's Rib Joint, Leadership Ardmore. It's no different than running any other business. It's just huge. And our city manager is responsible to run this. When I was responsible running all of my businesses, I'm the manager. I'm the one that it falls back on. If we succeed, it's great. We pat ourselves on the back. If we fail, we look at ourselves in the mirror and say, look what we've done. Let's better it next time. So I don't know these questions. I have a few written down here. Obviously, homelessness and the panhandling on the corners. I hear about this every day. Mm-hmm. That's because I was actively involved in that. But it's embarrassing for our city for people to drive into town, come off of I-35, the largest traveled highway in the nation, and see these people, which now our city government decided to put yellow vest on them for their safety. What about my safety? What about the fact that somebody in front of me is going to hand them $1, impede traffic, and I have a rear-end collision? I just think that we need to explore other options on what we need to do with this. So the homeless issue, the panhandling, this comes up to me every day. Mm-hmm. The roads, the 1% sales tax that we've now put on the ballot for April the 7th, that the people are going to vote on. And I really appreciate the fact that the people are going to vote on this 1% sales tax. If it passes, and if I'm elected, I can promise the people I will make sure that every penny of that money that's raised goes to streets and drainage. This is what our manager says the money is for. We're not going to spend it on water treatment. We're not going to spend it on some other utility or some other need in the city. It's going to roads and drainage. So we don't want a bunch of language in that particular tax that this money goes anywhere other than that, because I do hear daily about our streets and the disrepair of our infrastructure. Once again, the main thing to me is I spoke to somebody yesterday that the owner of the Ardmore High School over here. He's having real difficulty with the city. I talked to a lot of business people that have problems navigating through the city's permitting and regulations and things of this sort. We need to be more business friendly. When I bought the Ardmore building with a large multi-million-dollar decision to renovate, not one person from the city ever called and said, congratulations on your purchase of the most historic building in the city of Ardmore. Let us know if we can help you. I don't need anybody's help. This decision was made on my son and mine's part, but it would have been nice to know that you got the city behind you. And that's what I think every single citizen of the city, regardless if it's a matter of your trash can not being picked up or buying multi-million-dollar pieces of real estate, I think that we need to be more business friendly. And we need to have an open access to these people that make these decisions. So the commitment to clarity, that's one of my paramount platforms. It's kind of funny. I deal with words. And right now, change is one of the C's. I have 4 C's on my platform. Change, core values, family, faith, friends, community. Those core values, that's what human beings are about. When you stray from those, you end up like some of the less fortunate that we see around. Common sense. Man, business is a common sense decision. We have to make sure that it's not just for us for profit, it's for everybody, that everybody benefits from this decision. And then the commitment to clarity, I say again, I have to tell my people, or the people that elect me into this position, why decisions are made, how they're made, and what we're going to do with it.
Okay. You're looking at getting elected for a 3-year term as the at-large city commissioner. Assuming you are elected and you serve that 3-year term, what does Ardmore look like come 2029 at the end of that 3-year term with you on the commission?
Another campaign. I don't think that anybody can make a difference in 3 years. Do I agree with term limits? You bet. We have some people sitting on that board that have been there for decades. Same decisions made. I think we need some change. We need some nuances. We need some new thoughts, some new ideas. So to be quite honest, another campaign. I think that a couple of terms a person can make some difference.
Okay. I
think they can make a difference. My whole thing, it's about the money. I'm trying to be elected for the money. It pays $100 a year. I'm kidding.
Life-changing money, right?
I'm kidding. So the fact of the matter is, it's, I hate to say that it's public service because a lot of things we do is public service, but I simply love the city of Ardmore. I adore this town. When I left in 76, I said I would never come back to this place. I was 17 years old, graduating from Ardmore High School with a low grade point average, trying to get out of town. Now that I'm back, since 1986, I relocated back to Ardmore. You couldn't push me out of here with a bulldozer. I love this city. I want to see it prosper. I would like to see it grow. I would like to be a change for some of the decisions that are being made.
Yeah. And then finally, we've learned a little bit about you, about your policy platforms, about what you would like to see done on the city commission. But for this last question to wrap this up, I want to learn a little bit about you personally. So thinking about various pieces of art, TV, movies, music, plays, video games, whatever it might be, what is something that you enjoy when it comes to arts like that, and why is it so enjoyable for you?
Well, that's a good question, Michael. I don't golf. I don't fish. I don't have hobbies. I have family. And I spend the majority of my time, I was a single father of 2 children. I was lucky enough to raise those children to be wonderful citizens. My daughter's of Fort Worth. My son is here in Ardmore. My family is my hobby, and it's my absolute devotion. So movies, yeah, I like the old ones. You know, I can watch Scent of a Woman with Al Pacino and enjoy my hour and a half. I happen to like old classic rock and roll. Stevie Ray Vaughan, bless his heart, was one of the best. I'm turning on to a lot of this new country music. This Chris Stapleton guy, I mean, he really sounds great to me when he comes on the radio. I just don't have a lot of hobbies. Business is my hobby. It's, you know, I heard Elon Musk say one time, my mind simply doesn't turn off. And that's sort of my problem. And that can be a curse or it can be a benefit. In the middle of the night when you wake up and you're dreaming about a new business idea or you're dreaming about something that you're trying to do, it gets a little annoying that we can't turn it off. And I am OCD. I get very, very obsessive about things that I get involved with because I want to be 100% in that endeavor. This city commissioner race, I'm committed, and I appreciate the support that we've gotten so far. I'm actually humbled and impressed in spite of myself that there's so many people that would support me in this endeavor. But that's going to end up being my new hobby, and that's going to be my job. And I do it already because I'm very involved in what goes on in the city. But I would appreciate the support. I'd love to be elected. I would love to be frustrated for this first 3-year term because one vote out of five doesn't get a lot done. Mm-hmm. But at least we can know why these decisions are made, how they're made, and then I can transfer that position back to the people, and then they'll be a little bit more clear about how things are done.
All right. Buddy Simon, he is one of 4 candidates running for the Ardmore City Commission at-large seat. Election day is coming up on April 7th. Voters need to be registered by March 13th if they want to cast a ballot in there. Buddy Simon, thank you for joining us in the Junction this week, and good luck with your campaign.
Absolutely. I really do appreciate the opportunity to come and speak, and hopefully we can be successful in this venture and make some changes in the city of Ardmore that we dearly love.
4 people are vying for the at-large seat on the Ardmore City Commission. And joining us now to talk about their campaign for that is Scott Stahl. Scott, thanks for joining us in the Junction.
Hey, thank you, Michael.
So just to kind of start off, I want to learn a little bit about you. So if you wouldn't mind, just kind of introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do. But while you're doing that, could you also describe why you want to serve on the Ardmore City Commission?
Yes, I'll be glad to. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Michael. I spoke last year running for city council. I was in the Northwest, running from the Northwest side, and a lot of stumbling points were thrown at me. But my last year when I ran, I was trying to say Ardmore needs to have open meetings. Ardmore needs to have town hall meetings where us people in Ardmore can speak about what's going on because we are the future. We know all the answers. We don't need to go out and hire some consulting company like they did for downtown Ardmore and try to turn downtown Ardmore into Branson, Missouri. Ardmore is Ardmore. It's unique. We've addressed things in the past. We never had a college before, so I'm young. We moved here in 1980. I went to work at the Culvert House taking care of their yard until I was a senior in high school. Senior in high school. And then I moved away to Southeastern to go to college. There was no colleges here in Ardmore. And so I didn't like Southeastern over there. That's a little bit different town for me. So I went down to Dallas and got my bachelor's degree in computer information systems and my minor in business and accounting. And then I moved back home to Ardmore. So I've been here for there. I moved in 1990. I moved into my house. It's a single driveway. We have 3 cars. I constantly have to fight what goes on. There's not enough room in my little neighborhood. Ardmore's addressing housing, which is great, and about doing infills and open lots that are there about addressing the housing, which is a great thing, but they're going to have the same issues I am. Ardmore's a great town. And this is my 2nd year in a row I'm running for city council. It's the same issues this time around. It's about openness of the city to the taxpayers, and it's about not spending monies on our residential neighborhoods. It's about not fixing the potholes and utility cutouts in our residential neighborhoods. It all stems to one point: the city doesn't have enough money to carry out the promises that they have given to special interest groups instead of the people that actually own Ardmore. So the city's approach is to raise another penny sales tax for roads and infrastructure. I have been saying it upon deaf ears that there is enough monies to fix what really should be fixed. Everyone should stop listening to stay the same course. We needed a new direction in Ardmore, and that's why I'm running for city council.
For this question, I want to find out a little bit about what you know about City Hall, kind of how it operates, and what you consider to be important when it comes to being a city commissioner. So, what experiences of yours have prepared you for what would be a 3-year term as the city's at-large commissioner?
So every organization I belong to, I've moved up to president. I've lived here. I've seen the negativities as well as the good things in downtown City Hall. I understand walking in there when they're having a city council meeting, the citizens aren't allowed to speak and ask any questions before the city council meeting. I've tried that, and it's like it's already been approved behind the doors. The city of Ardmore, remodeled the new city, the current city hall. Mm-hmm. You don't have the citizens that have no access to the city manager anymore. There's a locked door. There's a sign right next to it that says no videos or photo pictures to be taken. And I asked Mr. Kevin Norris, his assistant city manager, what's that mean? The city is owned by the citizens. Everything that happens in the city hall should be available to the citizens. So why can't I take a picture of what this is? I mean, I was the one last year that had some problems in regards to they're going to build a new police station. I know as well as you do that every police officer's office is in their police patrol unit. It's great to build a brand new police station, and it's great to put the dispatchers in a nice little spot. But that wasn't available to the people. I had to go to the city council meeting and ask, where's the plans for this new police station? And it was told to me that they're in the police chief's office. And they asked me if I wanted to, I can come look at them. So I had an open records request to see what the police station was going to look at, and I posted it on Facebook. And that's the first time a lot of people realized that the city of Ardmore was even going to build a new police station. The citizens were left in the bag, not knowing what's going on in the city. And so that's my views about it, is maybe somebody like me needs to help open doors and do something good for our community.
You've touched on a little bit, so let's get into a bit more. I want to learn how you would plan on serving as an at-large commissioner. So how would Commissioner Stahl specifically stay engaged with residents, whether it's through a crisis, through a controversy, or fair weather? How do you stay in touch with constituents?
So my thing is, if I become city councilor, I am commissioner at large for everyone, for all these different little villages to have to come together as one town, one city. And that's the trouble in Ardmore, is one little village here doesn't communicate with this other little village. And this village over here wants money spent for this. And this village wants money to spend for here. But we're all the same community. We all have the same problem. We have trouble leaving our neighborhoods. We have to play like the game of Frogger when I was a kid. You've got to bounce around one pothole to another. Just putting gravel in the potholes and the cutouts is not the fix to this. So what I would do is I would actually have a monthly town hall meeting where I can bring people that are in charge in Ardmore, like your street department director and your parks department director, and let them listen to the citizens' complaints and what needs to be fixed. They have no idea. When I talked to the street department people 2 weeks ago on the phone, they don't even know who compiles this list for our potholes. So how do we know what needs to be fixed? There's a pothole crew. We spend $1.3 million on new AstroTurf at 2 baseball diamonds and new softball diamonds over at the regional park. That $1.3 million was enough to start another pothole crew to fix more of our potholes in our residential neighborhoods. Quit neglecting our residential neighborhoods. That's the approach I'm going to take.
I think everybody's got an opinion on this, and I want to hear yours as well. Ardmore, as anybody knows, is going to be facing a few challenges, whether we're talking about road conditions, as you brought up. We recently had the loss of hundreds of manufacturing jobs in recent years. What do you, though, see as Ardmore's biggest challenge, and what would be your job as a counselor or a commissioner in addressing those problems?
Yes, so 60% of our households in Ardmore are living paycheck to paycheck, and that's pretty well national. Many of our residents are paying 50% of their income for housing. Many of our elderly living here only have a source of income as Social Security. There's lots of ways and there's lots of community events out there to help everybody. But it just seemed like Ardmore's fractured. Nobody's coming together to address everything together. We need to come together as a community and address our problems to fix our problems. It's our future. What we've learned from the past by taking the Culvert House and leaving it under TIF money and having it tore down, that's gone. Currently, it's our roads. Tomorrow, what is it going to be? There'll be some new thing that will come up that everybody will take address to. Everybody needs to come together. This time, it's about voting for continuing to spend $14 million downtown or not, because some of our people in Ardmore want downtown new master plan to be fully developed. My issue is there isn't enough money to do that right now, but to ask the citizens to spend a penny more sales tax just to start with doing the master plan downtown, because there is no list of what roads are going to be fixed first. There is no list of what infrastructure needs to be fixed first. It's already been pre-planned without a citizen's knowledge.
I want to time travel a little bit for this question. Let's say you are elected to the commission, you serve your 3-year term. At the end of that 3-year term, in 2029, what do you see Ardmore looking like after you're on the board for 3 years?
After I get elected, I see Ardmore as more of a community with everybody involved. I'm only going to run for 1 term. I'm not going to be here forever. If I run for city council, I will try to pass a term limit to allow other views to join Ardmore, because Ardmore City Council consists of 5 people from 4 different quadrants and a city commissioner at large. There's all kinds of views. Everyone has an idea, and everybody has somebody talking behind their back. Can you fix this for me? Can you fix that for me? Well, let's all get together behind the same table and let's fix Ardmore for our kids in the future.
And then finally for you, Scott, I've got kind of a bit of a curveball. I want to learn less about the candidate, less about the policy, and just more about you as a person. So let's kind of wipe the slate clean and think about artwork. Whether we're talking about a painting, a piece of music, a building, a video game, a book. Is there a piece of art or maybe an art medium that you like, and why do you appreciate that?
So Ardmore I like when we moved here in 1980, we liked around Central Park. Mm-hmm. When I come into Ardmore now, coming out in 199, and we stop right there on Washington Street, there's a sign that says Arts District. I had to go downtown to City Hall one day and ask, what is the Arts District? What is the Arts District? And that's going to probably be around the where Ardmore Little Theater meets over there. Mm-hmm. And that's probably around that area. They basically put a nice mural up there. That's cool. Mr. Buddy Simon had a nice mural put on the Armorite building that he's trying to develop into apartments upstairs, and he's hit stumbling blocks. So that's why he's running for city council. My thing is Ardmore's great. We go down here to the Depot Park. That's where I walk my little dogs, my little doodles, and we walk our cat over there. There's the arts downtown are these old historic buildings. It's cool. If you look at some of the old stuff on it, there's on some of the buildings, there's old Coca-Cola signs on buildings. Mm-hmm. There's Dr. Pepper's over here. There's even one over here in regards to Durham tobaccos. That's art. Mm-hmm. And so Ardmore has a neat little area. Walk Main Street. Years ago, the people that own the buildings on Main Street paid to put the brick pavers out in front of their buildings. Walk that and read. There's your history about Ardmore, and there's your future about Ardmore. And so Ardmore's great. We have arts. We have many things happening. Out at the high school, we have the new Westheimer building, which is performing arts. Mm-hmm. I don't know about federal government anymore. They're not giving any money to arts anymore. Downtown we have the Ardmore Little Theater. We always go to that. They always have some great shows. So yeah, Ardmore has many arts, and in the future they will, because Ardmore Main Street wants to sell the building over there that is, what is that one called? Let me think.
The Marketplace?
Marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
They want to sell for $475,000. That property was donated by the Miss Joyce Key and Stan, and they developed that, for our local vendors to come in to sell, If they want to make homemade pottery, sell it. If they want to sell produce, sell it. But that's going to be sold now to a private developer. That's what their plans are. And to build a new stadium over there or outdoor venue thing at the Depot District. Go look at the Depot District. There's a train there. There's tracks laid down there. It's really pretty cool what they're doing to the train depot. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we've got 4 people running for the Ardmore City Commission coming up on the April 7th elections. One of those candidates joining us here in the Junction this week to talk about his campaign and his vision for Ardmore. Scott Stahl, thank you so much for joining me, and good luck with your campaign.
Appreciate you, Michael.
We've got 4 people vying for the at-large seat on the Ardmore City Commission. And joining us now to talk about his time on the commission and his campaign for re-election is Commissioner Doug Fowl. Doug, thanks for joining me this afternoon.
No problem. Appreciate you having me.
So just to kind of start off this conversation, let's let you introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do. But while you're doing that, could you also tell us why you're running for another term on the city commission?
Sure. For those people that don't know me, I moved to Ardmore when I was in high school. Wasn't really happy my parents moved me here from a bigger town to a small school. But then, lo and behold, I met and married my high school sweetheart. And in April, we'll have been married for 35 years.
Congrats.
Went away to college. Never thought we'd come back. Had our twin daughters and realized there was not a better place in the world to raise our daughters than in Ardmore, especially with both sets of parents living here. Mm-hmm. It was kind of a utopia, I called it, for my children. And then our thought and plan were to retire wherever the girls ended up, and lo and behold, one's in Newcastle and one is back here. So my granddaughters are close now, and I can't imagine a better place to be than Ardmore, Oklahoma. I started this journey 12 years ago as a city commissioner. Kind of once my kids started college, I realized I had some time and I really wanted to give back to the community. I had been on the Main Street board, and I had been on some other, about Ardmore Little Theater board and a couple other boards, and thought, I'd really like to put my hat in and see if I can do this and help grow the city. And in 12 years, things have changed quite a bit in Ardmore, Oklahoma. We're still a town of 24.5 maybe, 1,000 people.
Sounds about right.
Something like, and I don't think we were that size when I moved here. But it's the area around us that's changed. I think we heard the other day there was a report given, and I do apologize when I say the other day, it could have been yesterday and it could have been 3 years ago, that said that if you put a pin in Ardmore, you go 50 miles around Ardmore, there's 327,000 people. And those people come to Ardmore. They did a housing study a couple of years ago that said 31% of the people that live in Ardmore work in Ardmore. So that means 69% come to Ardmore to work, and of that 69%, 17% come from over 45 miles away. So we are the South Central hub. That's why we have things that a lot of other towns in Oklahoma that are our size don't have. I love where this community is headed. I think that we continue to grow and evolve with the way our higher education is going now, something we've always needed. With the Murray campus and what Southern Tech is doing now, it can continue to grow and actually provide employees for all these businesses that want to come and continue to come to Ardmore. Mm-hmm. So it's really good for us. But I just want to continue on where, we're working on the rainfall study. Part of the reason for the 1 cent sales tax was for roads and streets, and how can we make things better? How can we make our town better? When I tell people all the time, in 2015 when we had that, what they called a 100-year rain. Remember, everything flooded. I think those 100-year rains are starting to happen more often than every 100 years. But I would work out at the air park for Dollar General, and I came back into town, and I knew what areas of town not to drive through. I knew how to get to my house, which is downtown, without having to avoid any high water spots. Mm-hmm. Those have always been there. They've been there when I was little, when I was here in high school. So I think there are things that we need to take care of, and that's why I want to be part of it.
Okay. For this next question, I want to find out a little bit about your time. You first joined the City Commission back in 2014, if I'm not mistaken. So this will be your 5th term that you're seeking on the board, mm-hmm. or on the commission. How has Ardmore changed in that time since 2014? And maybe more importantly, what have you learned in that time as a commissioner that you may not have known before joining the commission?
Oh, there are lots of things I learned that I didn't know before I joined, but probably the main thing for me is how expensive things are. When you look at a road, you look at you want to do a block or you want to do 2 blocks, you're talking millions of dollars just to do it right and to do it the way it's supposed to be done, by the specification guidelines by the state and by and how we're supposed to get things done. I don't think I realized that. I also thought when we have a contentious, say, zoning issue where there are people for and people against, and we make a decision, I expected things to happen the next day, but they don't. Usually that is just the first process in a long process of people then acquiring property and doing those kind of things once they get the zoning correct. And so I think that those things were new for me, and I learned a lot about that. But Ardmore in the last 14 years has changed a lot. If you think about Rockford Road has only been there for about 18 years. Lowe's is about, I don't know that they've celebrated 20 years yet. So all of 12th is pretty much different than it used to be, and continuing to change and continuing to grow. I think that you look at what's happened downtown with what we've been able to do with the park and with the restoration down here and what we're continuing to do. It's amazing how this is a place people want to be and people want to come to. And that's exciting for me.
For this next question, I want to learn a little bit about your time as a city commissioner and how you represent constituents here in Ardmore. How do you stay engaged with residents, whether it is through a controversy or a crisis or just kind of fair weather? How are you staying in touch with people here in Ardmore?
Because it's Ardmore and we're readily available. I always make the joke that there are 6 degrees of separation in the world. There's only a half a degree in Ardmore. You don't know them, but you might know their friend, or you've seen them, but you don't know their name. Mm-hmm. And having lived here for over 40 years of my life, I can tell you that people get a hold of you however they can. I guess the one controversy I can really think of is when we issued a mask mandate during COVID. Mm-hmm. We issued the Open Meetings Act on a Tuesday that we were at noon because we were doing it on noon on Thursday, so 48 hours, mm-hmm. Which is a federal guideline. And within that 48 hours, I think I heard from about 600 people through emails, telephone calls, text messages, Facebook. People reached out, lots of calls, and so for me, in making the decisions that we made, I just did tick marks on who was for and who was against. And that's kind of how you do those decisions. You listen to what the people have to say and what they need and what they want, and make your decisions based on those.
I think everybody's got an opinion on this, and I want to hear yours as well. Ardmore, as in any town in Oklahoma, is going to have its own challenges, whether we're talking about road conditions, the loss of manufacturing jobs in recent years. What do you see as Ardmore's biggest challenge, and what do you see your role in addressing those challenges?
Well, I think there's a couple. There's some big ones right now. Water could eventually be a big issue. I think we just recently secured some water rights, which will really help us in my grandchildren having water. Mm-hmm. I think that's a huge thing for Ardmore. I think the things we're already working on with our streets and going through and developing a plan so that we can continue the infrastructure and continue, the not pretty things that people want to see, but the stuff that's important for us to continue to work on. And what was the third part of that question?
What's your role in kind of addressing those?
Well, I think it's just listening to what people tell me. People call you all the time, or they text you, or they reach out to you via. I had somebody actually reach out to my daughter for me to get a hold of them. They ran into her at the Y and said, "Hey, can you tell your dad to give me a call?" I don't have his number, so I found him and called him. I think that's because we're in Ardmore. You listen to the things that people have that they're frustrated with, and hear what they have to say and see what you can do to fix it.
You're running for a 5th term on the Ardmore City Commission, a 3-year term. So I kind of want to time travel for a moment and go to 2029. It would be the end of this 5th term, 3 years from now. What would you like to see different in Ardmore? What does Ardmore look like come 2029 at the end of this, what would be a 5th term?
For me, hopefully it would be infrastructure upgrades and that stuff fixed, roads fixed, flooding areas fixed. We worked with ODOT to move the Highway 199 off of Main Street because it used to come down Main Street and then turn down Washington, mm-hmm. and then go back out towards Sam Noble. We had them rerouted so that we could avoid some of that huge traffic through town. I would like to continue some of those kind of things and fixing those problems, because Ardmore itself may not grow population-wise, but the area around us is going to continue. Mm-hmm. People want to live here.
And then finally, I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball your way.
Okay.
I want to learn a little bit less about the candidate, less about policy, and just more about you as a person. So in thinking about just art in general, pieces of art, mediums of art, TV, books, music, video games, what's a piece of art you like, and why do you like it?
Okay, I will give you a curveball. I was a vocal performance major in college. I thought I wanted to sing opera all over the world. That was my thought. And then I watched my sister, who is a performer and did perform all over the world, and realized that she would spend a month here and 6 weeks here and 6 months there. And I didn't want that. I wanted to be a Little League coach. Now, we had girls, so I didn't, but I coached them in other things. Mm-hmm. But I think that for me, I love opera. I love what it has to say, and I also know that I'm not smart enough to be an opera singer too. Musicians are incredibly smart people, and I don't think anybody understands that. But I was actually just listening to some on the way in, just to kind of calm me down and relax me for just my day. So yeah, art for me is really music. I love the art we have in town. I love all the visual art. I think we have a beautiful art garden, and we have art all over the city, and we've done a really beautiful job. I know that not everybody likes it, but it's okay. It's part of our life, and it's an important part of our life. They talk a lot in education, and I know this isn't about education, about the STEM program, and I really wish they would take it back to STEAM, which included the arts, because I think that really makes your brain work.
All right. Well, Doug Fow, he is the Ardmore City Commissioner, the at-large commissioner. He's running for re-election. Voters need to be registered with the Carter County Election Board by today, March 13th, if you want to vote in this upcoming Ardmore City Commission election. Doug Fow, thank you again for joining me this afternoon. Appreciate your time.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Make sure you're subscribed to Ardmore Leader wherever you stream music and podcasts. Next week, we'll hear from Harry Spring and Jimmy John, two candidates running for the Ardmore City Schools Board of Education. I'm Ardmore Leader News Director Michael Dean Smith, and thank you so much for downloading episode 55 of This Week in Ardmore. Follow us online, ardmoreleader.com, or on social media. And until next Friday, I hope you have a positive week ahead.